Mark, often identified as John Mark, occupies a significant role in the early Christian congregation's history. While the Bible itself provides certain details, witnesses rely heavily on scriptural cross-references, historical context, and commentary from their reference works such as Insight on the Scriptures and various Watchtower articles to build a thorough picture of his life, his ministry activities, and his character. Identity and family background. Mark, sometimes called John Mark, was likely a native of Jerusalem and is mentioned in the Christian Greek scriptures. Acts chapter 12 verse 12, 25, 1537-39. The scriptures introduce him in connection with his mother Mary, who owned a home in Jerusalem that served as a gathering place for some of the earliest Christians. This home is notably where believers were praying when Peter was miraculously released from prison. Acts chapter 12 verses 12-17. Thus, Mark's early environment placed him at the very heart of Christian activity right from the outset. His family likely enjoyed some standing in the Christian community, providing hospitality and support to traveling apostles and other believers. Companion of apostles and missionary activities. One of the most prominent aspects of John Mark's life was his close association with key figures in the early church. He was a cousin, or possibly a relative of some kind, of Barnabas, Colossians chapter 4 verse 10. A well-respected Christian disciple known for his encouragement and generosity. This familial tie almost certainly facilitated Mark's involvement in early missionary efforts. Mark is first seen venturing out as an attendant on the missionary journey of Barnabas and the Apostle Paul, who were sent out by the congregation in Antioch of Syria. Acts chapter 13 verses 2-5. However, Mark's initial foray into missionary service was not without difficulty. At some point during the journey, he left Paul and Barnabas and returned to Jerusalem. Acts chapter 13 verse 13. Although the Bible doesn't specify his reasons, this departure evidently troubled Paul, who considered it a form of abandonment of the work. When Barnabas later wanted to bring Mark on a subsequent journey, Paul strongly objected, leading to a temporary rift between the two prominent missionaries. Acts chapter 15 verses 37-40. This disagreement was so pronounced that Paul and Barnabas parted ways. Barnabas took Mark and sailed to Cyprus, while Paul chose Silas and headed in a different direction. From the perspective of Jehovah's Witnesses, this incident highlights that even faithful servants of God are imperfect and can have personal disagreements. It also shows that such disputes, while unfortunate, can result in a positive outcome. Now there were two effective missionary teams instead of one. Mark's reputation was not irredeemably damaged by this event. Over time, he clearly matured and strengthened his faith, demonstrating dependability, humility, and resilience. Reconciliation and later cooperation. Later references to Mark in the scriptures illustrate his growth and re-establishment of trust with Paul. Years after their initial conflict, Paul writes warmly of Mark. In fact, when Paul was imprisoned in Rome around 60 to 61 CE, Mark was present and supportive. Philemon chapter 24. Colossians chapter 4 verse 10. Later still, as Paul neared the end of his life, he wrote to Timothy asking him to bring Mark along, stating that Mark had become useful to me for ministering. 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 11. Jehovah's Witnesses often use this as an example of how Christian brothers and sisters can overcome past differences and come together again in peaceful, productive service to God. Association with the Apostle Peter and the writing of the Gospel of Mark. Jehovah's Witnesses also acknowledge the traditional view that Mark is the writer of the Gospel bearing his name. While Mark himself was not one of the original 12 apostles, early Christian tradition, as well as internal scriptural evidence, suggests that Mark's Gospel is heavily influenced by the eyewitness accounts of the Apostle Peter. For example, 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 13 indicates a close relationship between Peter and Mark, with Peter referring to him as, "my son." This paternal tone suggests a strong spiritual bond, one in which Mark received detailed, first-hand insights from Peter about the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. The Gospel of Mark is often considered to be the earliest of the 4 Gospel accounts. Jehovah's Witnesses appreciate that Mark's direct, action-oriented style provides a vivid, fast-paced look at Jesus' ministry, stressing his dynamic teaching, his miracles, and his compassionate actions. Witness literature often points out that Mark's account is concise and focuses on deeds rather than long discourses, which may reflect Peter's distinctive perspective on Christ's life and ministry. Spiritual lessons derived from Mark's experience. Within the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses, Mark's life trajectory, Starting from a young helper who withdrew from a challenging assignment, to a mature Christian who became a trusted companion and gospel writer, is used as a practical lesson. His example shows that personal setbacks can be overcome. A person who stumbles or disappoints others in the congregation can still regain trust, grow spiritually, and become a valuable contributor to the preaching work. Mark's restoration to favor with Paul underscores the principle of forgiveness and the importance of giving people another chance. The experience of Mark and Paul indicates that even strong believers may need time to grow. Maturity often emerges from perseverance, continual learning, and a deepening appreciation for one's privileges in Christian service. Such accounts reassure Jehovah's Witnesses that with Jehovah's guidance, humility, and endurance, Christians today can also develop qualities that make them more useful in their ministry and in the congregation. Please share and like and please subscribe.